Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Brewery Underground Podcast. I'm Steve Sullivan, joined, of course, by the Chancellor of Craft Beer, Scott Touron, and we are continuing our two-part series today with Chris Shields. He is the Director of Education for Rhinegeist Brewery in Cincinnati.
I want to go back to the tap room for a minute because when we were there last, I guess it was last May, Steve, you've been there since, but they were doing the build out of the sports book. The TVs were in place. Yeah. They were kind of building out the seating area and stuff. As a matter of fact, they were building out. We were sitting over there and they brought us some samples and stuff, things to try. We were there. But how was that utilized? People just kind of sit around and drink, and can they bet there, like through an app or something? Or is it just kind of a sports area?
It's all just, Ohio in, I believe, January 1st, 2023, online sports betting became legal in Ohio. And what's funny is we got approached by one of these sports books, Tipico. It's not one, it's one of the lesser known ones. They're actually European, like they're based in Europe. They've been around for a long time. But they said, hey, would you guys want to partner on making a little area, whatever? Basically, it's like the opposite. Like, how like usually it's the brewery, like, putting in the bar inside the stadium. That's kind of what they were doing. I mean, they didn't pay for the whole thing. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But, they contributed to building this area. And one thing that's actually really, really cool is our team of designers and the fabricators and builders designed, built, and installed all of that. All that was done in-house. Like I said, everything from the layout and the design was one of our Chelsea, one of our designers, and Joe and David and Mike and the team built it. And so the idea is it's just a bunch of TVs and like some plugs and a way to kind of hang out. We're working on being able to you could reserve it. I think that's probably coming soon. We want to have that in place. I think it might even be live, but you could, if you had a group that wanted to come in and watch some NCAA tournament games, you could kind of reserve it. I mean, you pay, but not a ton, and it's a private space within the tap room. So that's something that we're experimenting with right now, is just kind of having these other little spaces that feel a little bit more isolated, but you're still part of the tap room. And it's just kind of cool. When they first, opened it, they would send some representatives for some big games. It was playoff games or something like that. And they would have someone from Tipico there, and but you're still just betting on, they're just helping you set up the app basically. But it was cool because they would run promotions whatever, put X amount in and get X amount, all these wacky promotions. But a lot of the promotions involved getting merch, Rhinegeist merch. And that was great because they bought that and gave it to people. So
it's a win-win.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was a really success. Are people in there lighting up the internet with their sports betting? I don't know, not really. But is it a pretty well utilized space? Yeah, and it's it's a nice little bank of TVs, and I'm very excited for the NCAA March Madness to start and have that, because my laptop might be out there for some of the games.
May not be getting much work done that day, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I guess it's not been that long where you guys have started to offer some food options too for the first time, I guess, really ever in the brewery. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got food's kind of been a long-term challenge for us. And a lot of it has to do with us being up on the second floor.
Yeah.
We've always had some food. You actually are required to have some food in Ohio. But, it's been among various things, pretzels and, bags of chips, not really meals food, more like snacks. But food trucks don't really work because nobody wants to go down, all those steps and order and then wait, and then you can't bring your beer out to the street, and it's kind of a mess. And then at one point we opened a restaurant space that's in the building. It was on the ground level, but it wasn't directly connected. You kind of had to go outside and in between, but you could, and it was a restaurant that was operating somewhat independently from us. It was kind of a higher end, like French inspired food. It was delicious, but it wasn't the right fit, I think, for the neighborhood at the time. But you could order, like, they had a limited menu of stuff that you could order up into the tap room. And so that's kind of been the model for a while. It was this nicer place, and then that ended up closing down. And then it was, we had our own, like an OTR chili parlor that was there for a while. And that was a really cool, that one kind of got beat on by COVID. It was, that really just, it just kind of didn't reopen from that. Then we had an outside like semi-chain Mexican restaurant based in Columbus come in and do food for a little while, but then they left, and now we actually have if you're familiar at all with Mac's Pizza Pub, it's been there. There's a few of them around Cincinnati, but a bunch of our team has actually worked there over the years, like before they got into the brewing industry. But it's a pizza vending machine.
And the reason I was hoping you were going to get to that, because I've heard about it and I've heard people rave about it. So I'm like, a pizza vending machine, okay, but it sounds like
it doesn't sound great. like if you just say like pizza vending machine, the first time I heard that phrase, I was like,
hype it up for us, hype it up. But tell us why we would love the pizza vending machine.
Yeah, one, it takes 3 minutes, so that's really great. But it's the reason I mentioned Mac's Pizza Pub is because it's their pizza. They're making those pizzas and loading them in basically daily. And the way it works is it's like a big refrigerator, and they make these pizzas and they par bake them like 2/3 of the way, and then there's some, I was going to say proprietary technology. That sounds really fancy, but it's basically just a fancy machine. But there's like a robot arm in there that, like, you put your order in and it grabs the pizza and it pulls it into the oven. And it is actually more like a real oven. It's not just like radiant light heat. It's like actually like convection heat. It's not an open flame. There's there's graphics of like open flame pizza. But and it heats the top and the bottom. And actually ran into Mac when I was there for Bachfest. He was manning chucking pizzas in there because it was getting used. They can actually program if you get the pepperoni, it does an extra 30 seconds on the top to crisp up the pepperoni versus the cheese, or all the recipes are like super customizable, and then it spits out like a kind of a personal, like a decently big sized personal pizza, and it's reasonably affordable, and it's.
Does it have pineapple? Because Scott requires a pizza to have.
I didn't say required it. I said I like it on there. It's not mandatory.
They do. So they do a few different things. They kind of have like your standard. They have like a cheese. They have a pepperoni. They've got a supreme. They did do a custom pizza for us for Bachfest. It had sauerkraut and some like Borson cheese and some sausages. But you can also get quesadilla. You can get boneless wings. You can get chocolate chip cookies out of this thing. It's been really great. And you can even, I haven't done this because I just eat the pizza hot. You can actually ask for the pizza cold and take it home and bake it. I know some of our team does that, especially my wife and I are making a real dinner for us, and this pizza is for the kids, because they're not going to want to eat the salmon or whatever that they're, that they're making. The other thing that was a surprise for us, and probably y'all nor your listeners care, but it's on 24/7. So we have people in the building that work overnight, and like our production team. We have drivers that are showing up late at night or early in the morning. They can come in and get lunch. Like
There you go.
I can walk over to Findlay Market and get a sandwich because restaurants are open. But if you're working at 3 a.m., there's not a whole lot of options. And it was funny because I was talking to when I was talking to Mac, who runs it, he was like, yeah, I was looking at like the purchase data. And he's like, I kept seeing all these pizzas being purchased at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And he was like, oh, it must be late night. And then he was like, wait, you guys aren't open that late. What is it? And then he realized, he's like, oh, it's like the brewers eating pizzas for lunch, for their lunch.
That's probably a market he never even thought about when he put the thing in.
Never even thought about it. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Additional revenue.
So it is actually, I mean, it is like I said, it was like the Geist tea for me. I was like, I don't know about this. And then I was like, okay, this is actually pretty legit.
That's awesome.
And Steve with bubbles now, because you should see that his refrigerator is loaded up with bubbles.
I'm telling you. Yeah, that's a secret.
Bubbles is my favorite version of drinking bubbles is for brunch or in the morning. And the reason is you can swap either ingredient of a mimosa for bubbles and it works.
I could see that.
So you can take, if you want to like keep it chill, you can just add some OJ to your bubbles and make like a bubbles mosa. Or if you want to get after it and remove the non-alcoholic orange juice and replace it with bubbles in your sparkling wine, you can do that too. That's more of a special occasion.
We got some inside information here.
Yeah,
so it's customizable.
It's customizable. It's good in cocktails too. If you ever like beer cocktails, bubbles is great.
You guys should put on the website.
It's got some sweet and it's got some sour.
Yeah. Put on the website like uses for this product for bubbles, like all sorts of uses.
That's right. Some inside information there. You mentioned a few minutes ago Findlay Market, and we have opening day coming up for the Cincinnati Reds in a couple of weeks, and there's this thing called the Findlay Market Parade that goes on every year. Are you all involved in that? Are you guys involved in the parade?
We are actually. It has been a few years since we have been involved, but we are back in the parade this year. So we're very excited. We'll have one of our branded vans pulling a trailer. Some of our team is building a float. We'll have some people walking in the parade. For folks that don't know, it's nuts. I mean, I didn't grow up in Cincinnati. It is bonkers. Like 40% of the city takes off of work, and the other 60% don't really work. Unless you work at a bar, you're not you're not working. I mean, we open at 9 a.m. that day.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
The parade's at like noon. It starts, you can watch the start of the parade from the roof. So I'll expect to see the two of you guys up here for opening day.
He's going to be there. He's like, I don't
know. Actually, I'm not. I'm actually coming up the next day. I had almost had initial plans to come up the day of. A buddy of mine, he already bought tickets for the game, so I wasn't able to get on that. But I'm coming up the next day to see family. But I remember one year, years ago, when I went to opening day and I went to the Findlay Market Parade. And thank God I was drinking some beer before the game because it started snowing. And that's not completely uncommon.
No, I feel like
by the time you get to the game, it's like, oh my gosh, I need something to keep me warm,
Yeah, I think of the 9 years I've lived in Cincinnati, I think it's rained or snowed like 6 of those opening days. It's like notoriously rains.
And it's funny, like a day like today, it's 70. It's 70 there today, right? But it's no guarantee it's going to be 70 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Same here.
But it is. I mean, it is I tell all my my school buddies, I'm like, you guys have to come out for this. Like, it sounds like I'm making this up, but it is. It's the one day of the year that Reds fans have hope. And I've adopted the Reds. Like I'm from North Carolina. I didn't grow up we didn't have a hometown team. I mean, the Braves were the closest baseball team when I was growing up, and that was a 6-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, I'm jumping in. And when I moved here, it was like, Todd Frazier, and when the All-Star game was here, the first year I lived here, it was amazing.
Oh yeah.
But and it's still fun. I mean, I love it. It's I actually have a friend of mine. She runs the website Pints and Panels. I don't know if you've ever seen.
I think I have.
It's an awesome, like, she's a cartoonist, but she's like a huge beer nerd and expert, and she does all these like she draws cartoons about beer education and beer pairing and all sorts of neat stuff. Her name's Em. Check her out. But she's a huge baseball fan, and she's coming, not for opening day. I told her, I was like, next year you got to come for opening day. But her and her husband are going to come down in June for a couple games. They're Sox fans from they live in Connecticut, but so they're coming down. But they were like, I think it's cheaper to get the train and tickets to the Reds game than it is to get like weekend tickets to the Red Sox game.
Yeah.
I would believe
like,
that.
It's a great place, and it's a good stadium. It's a great place to watch a game.
We got tickets. We're coming up. My family and I, we do a big gathering every year, and Scott, who is like family, is coming too. So we're going to the series Memorial Day weekend, the Dodgers, and then the day before the Padres. Business and special, and at some point we will be at Rhinegeist, of course.
Yeah, we'll hit you up before we get there to make sure that you're around, so we can definitely make sure. You can't go on vacation.
Yeah, one of our guys that works in our accounting team, he does all the accounting for our distro team. He started as a driver, long time, he's from Hamilton, which probably only means anything to Steve, but
I used to work in Hamilton, so yeah. No, well.
So and he still lives in Hamilton. He loves, he's a Hamilton lifer, but he that's about the only time he's not sitting at his desk, is anytime there's a businessman special. He's, for years, he is, he goes to every single one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. The Thursday when we go is going to be the businessman special, which is going to be fantastic.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you because of all the beer that you have discussed, and bubbles and the tea and everything else. I want to also discuss about a lot of the barrel age that you do, because I have fallen in love with a few of them. And Rhinegeist Inc., of everything you guys do, Inc. might be my favorite. I've even said over the years, especially as my palate changed, and I used to not like dark beers. And I feel like Rhinegeist Inc. is responsible for me now liking dark beers. So talk about really your production of the barrels and how popular of a brand that is for Rhinegeist.
Yeah, I'm gonna link both our what we call fresh aged, like fresh barrel aging, so things like Ink and Night Whale and Double Oaked Mastodon and all these barrel aged beers, along with a little bit of our what we call Outer Reaches, which is our wild and sour beers, because they share a lot of similarities. Those two brand families are not a big part of our production. As you can probably guess, especially, with at our size, like those aren't, they're not flying off the shelves at your local grocery store. But I think I agree that they're some of the most complex and interesting beers that we make.
It's very specialized.
They're not everyday beers.
Drink them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, even I love them, but they're not everyday beers.
Not everyday beers. I will tell you that I usually get it around the holidays. In fact, a lot of times what I'll do, I did this past year, was I bought a bottle. It was probably like May. It was sitting in my refrigerator till about Christmas, aging.
Yeah.
and that's what I like it, and I think there's probably a lot of other people like that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've gotten to the point where one of the other reasons why I put those two brand families together is Luke, who is one of our original 6 employees. When we started, it was him and Jim were pretty much the only production. And now Luke is our barrel master. And what that means is he's doing both of those brand families. This time of year, he's really a little bit more focused on the wild and sour stuff, because that's what comes out sort of during the spring and summer. And then usually around August, September, it'll switch and you'll start seeing some of the barrel-aged beers come out. Usually Mashushu is the first one, and then you'll see Ink and Night Whale, and then Double Oaked Mastodon is usually the final one, which just came out like last week. And that's one of our in-house favorites. But yeah, those beers they take a different, they take just as much attention and focus on quality, but there's definitely a larger stroke of the artistic side in those beers. Brewing is definitely a blend of science and art. And Luke is an engineer. He knows what he's doing, but he definitely also has that ability to blend and come up with creative ideas and develop these beers and variants and things like that are interesting. And these beers spend 6 to 24 months in barrels. A lot of them are New Riff, not everything, but we have a great relationship with New Riff, and I think that helps with that's some great whiskey that's in those barrels, and then that gives us some great character for our barrel aged beers. But it's really a great experience to have those. You can have ink year after year, and it's still ink, but it's a little different every year. One of the things that we kind of came up with is ink is a little bit more drinkable than some of the other. I don't mean that in a mean way, because I'm getting ready to talk about one of our other beers that's arguably less drinkable, but it's a little drier than some of your big barrel aged beers. And we got some feedback from, some people love it, and some people are like, man, I wish it had a little bit more body. I wish it had a little bit more oomph. And we're like, it's 12%. Like, what, how much more oomph do you want? So that's when we made, that's what inspired us to make Night Whale. And it was funny because trying to brew this beer, I think it almost broke our brew house when we were figuring it out. But it's like a 15% much, and it's not super sweet, but it's just much more body. It's big, heavier, thicker imperial stout, and those are really the anchor of our imperial stout program. You've got Ink, which is a little bit less alcohol. The non-barrel aged Ink is 10%. The non-barrel aged Night Whale is like 13% or something. It's pretty high.
So I was going to ask you, what percentage does it go up when it goes in the barrel? A couple of points, then, it sounds like.
Yeah, officially none, but you can check the check the labels for your accurate ABV content for barrel aged beers.
Yeah, and that's what's great.
No, in reality, we're not like adding whiskey to these by any stretch, but you do pick up a little bit of alcohol just from the wood. And the reason I say that is because I can promise you that we make sure those barrels are empty, because that's stuff for the staff. If there happens to be anything left over in there,
he's sloshing around, see if there's anything.
Oh yeah, squeeze them, just
yeah, jump up and down.
Yeah, but it's tough because those types of beers, they really are. A tiny proportion of our volume. We're probably doing a couple hundred beer barrels maybe a year of those types of beers. And that's the wild side. We have 4 fooders that we're doing, kind of Belgian inspired sour beer with lots of fruit, and those are mostly, a lot of those beers are 10 to 20 barrel batches. The same thing with the barrel aged beers. And when you're talking about 110,000 barrels, that's not a ton of our volume, right. But we're really proud of those beers. And we have people that those are the only beers of ours that they drink, because those are the only types of beers that they like. And we think that ours stand up against some of the best examples in the country. I'm not going to sit here and say that ours are the best. There's some really amazing beers, and it depends on what you like. But Luke is doing some really fabulous work, and I've got a couple in my fridge. The one that I will plug specifically, it's not a barrel aged beer, Steve, but you've had those. I will plug Double Oak Mastodon. I'll plug one of each. Double Oak Mastodon is fun. Mastodon is a Belgian dark strong ale.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it double oaked because, as Luke will tell you, we've been doing this beer for 8 or 9 years, and we do it the dumbest way you would ever double oak a beer. In theory, if you were going to do this, what I would recommend to people is take your batch and put some proportion of it into one type of barrel and some proportion of it into a different type of barrel, and then blend it. You're blending it anyway, but we don't do that because we're dumb. And we just do it the same way we always did it. Luke what he'll do is he'll put it in usually bourbon barrels for about 10 months, and then he'll pull it out and put it into red wine barrels for just about 2 or 3 months. And then we'll, pull it back out, blend it, carb it up, and package it. It is just such a delightful beer. That Belgian character, if you're not a huge Belgian beer drinker, you lose enough of that over in the barrel aging process. It's not super bubblegummy or peppery, but there's a little bit of that there. It brings the complexity, and you really can taste both the sort of oaky, bourbon, marshmallowy, vanilla flavors and the like red wine, fruity, tannic flavors. Really, probably my personal favorite of that or the rye ink. Those are probably my two faves. And then on the sort of outer reaches side, we have a beer called Table Beer. It's primarily
I have a great story about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's primarily just the beer that you can find it out and about every once in a while, but it's mostly taproom only. It's a foeder aged grisette. So grisette's like a baby saison. So it's like 4.5%. It's super dry. It spends time in the big oak foeder, and it's got some nice oaky tannins, and it's also mixed culture. So it has it's wild yeast bacteria. So it does get a little bit sour, but it's just called table beer because it's just the approachable. It's like, if you aren't sure if you want to try a sour, that's the one I always tell people to try. It is my wife's absolute favorite beer that we make. And one of the things she loves about it is because it's a active, it's in a foeder and then it's packaged. We don't pasteurize it or anything. It continues to age in the kegs. And it's, we'll do 10 barrel, 15 barrel batch of it and package it. It takes a while to move through the tap room. It's not flying off, it's pretty much tap room only. So she'll show up and she's like, ooh, it's a fresh one. It's not super sour yet. Or like, this one's getting real sour. It doesn't get crazy sour, but like the level of sourness changes and the level of funkiness changes. So it's a fun beer to like, I have some friends that every time they come in the brewery, they ask for a sample of table beer because they're like, where is it? Where's it at? What's it doing?
And so that's my story right there. Was we were on the rooftop a few years ago, and I got a flight, and I looked and I went, table beer. Oh, I got to get that. Just for the name alone, I thought it was hilarious. And I think I've only maybe seen it one other time, probably at the brewery there. I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's almost anywhere. It's almost always on tap in the brewery, but basically up until really recently, we didn't even sell it outside of the brewery, and now it's pretty much just draft only at a few accounts. That's about it. But it's cork and caged bottles. They're $8. It's like the best deal you can get for a beer like that. It really showcases the kind of one of Luke's favorite phrases, our barrel master, is approachable complexity. And I think that speaks to, Steve, hopefully that's how you feel about his barrel aged beers. That's kind of his approach. He wants there to be a ton of flavor and a ton of nuance, but something that you can share with somebody who's not a barrel aged beer nerd. And maybe it doesn't become their favorite beer, but they can at least enjoy it and appreciate it, maybe with a meal or with a dessert or something like that.
Yeah. Does Luke's love for that kind of beer and what he does inspire or create something like the Rare Beer Fest? I know I mentioned it earlier, but because it's a lot of that kind of stuff, right? It's rare, but there's some
Yeah.
IBV stuff, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
rare
I mean,
things.
it's not necessarily just Luke. It's really all of us. That started as a way for us to connect with, I mean, truly as a way for us to connect with other people in the industry. It was kind of a very selfish, like for the staff, because we invite brewers to come out and participate. And unfortunately, we're not doing the fest this year. It was the complexity of it and the nuance of the way we ran it. We tried to, probably to the detriment of the fest and to ourselves, we really tried to make sure it was something that was as affordable and easy for other breweries to come join as possible. And to some extent, there's just a limit on how many people we can get in the building.
Yeah.
Even though that's not a small number. Yeah, those, we were buying all those beers and paying for them to get shipped up. And it's, as you said, those are, we're often buying the most expensive beers that these breweries make. And it was just tough. We'd love to, we're sort of taking a hiatus on it. We're not saying it's gone forever. We hope it's not, but it may come back in a different form. I mean, y'all know too, it's beer festivals aren't really what they used to be either. I'm pretty well involved with the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, and a couple of the festivals that are part of that, our guild, do really well, and a couple of them are not doing as well, and have gone away. And it's funny, like I don't know what the secret sauce to like which ones work and which ones don't. But yeah, we really want to get back to doing something like that where we can have more connection with people in the industry and the other brewers. And it's inspiring for us. It's a reset. It's fun. It's a great way to engage with and see what everyone else is doing. I mean, there's 10,000 breweries in the US. Like everybody's doing something neat. And a lot of people are doing something I've never even thought of. And that's cool. And it's one of the things I love about traveling. And when I'm fortunate to get to, travel a little bit for Rhinegeist, and I like to travel personally, I'm always, I'm not walking by a brewery without popping my head in, I mean,
yeah.
Sometimes I have no idea. I'm just like, what's going on in here? Like, hey, what's going on? Yeah. Are you guys even open? And I love doing that. And, is every beer I have doing that great? No, but I can almost always find something I enjoy. And that's what I think is the future of the industry is having, people, people ask like, is it 10,000 breweries? Like there's too many. There can't be room for more. And I'm like, there's until every neighborhood has like a brewery or two, we got plenty of space. So are there going to be 10 more Sam Adams? Probably not. But there's so much room for these neighborhood spots and these specialized spots. I think of places like, when I compare, Cincinnati has 50 or 60 breweries, but I think of somewhere like Denver. I mean, Denver's a bigger city, but they also have there are breweries in Denver that are so specialized, right? They do only Czech lagers like Cohesion or Bierstadt, which is super focused on like excellent, traditional, primarily German style lagers, and Prost that does German, and I can't think of the place that does like all like English cask beers, right? There's all these like beautiful little nuanced places, and I think we're going to continue to see more of that. And it might not be, they'll probably have an IPA on too, because something's got to pay the bills.
Yep.
But I do love those kind of barrel aged and wild and sour beers and creative beers, and I'm happy that those are still happening. I'm happy that we make them, but I'm happy that lots of people still make them, because I'll tell you, they don't sell the way they used to 5 years ago.
Yeah, there was a beer fest here that it's called Winter Warmer, and they had it in December, and Rhizome does it. We had them on recently, and this was the last year that they were going to have it. And it's that same kind of thing. It's that, it's the high ABV stuff, it's the heavy stuff, and it's very specialized. And but they were saying, I was begging them, please bring it back, please bring it back. Like, it's just like the beer is so expensive for the brewers to make and to get here, and it's not for everyone either. It's a specialized group that kind of go, and
right.
So it's tough, but I hate to see it go away. So we'll look for the Rare Beer Fest to come back at some point, hopefully, in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Hey, question. So Truth obviously is the flagship beer.
Mm-hmm.
Between that and say the Juicy Truth, what percentage of the Truth that makes up the whole of Rhinegeist and what you sell?
Yeah. So Truth is our number one seller. And Truth and Juicy Truth together is about 60% of our volume. I mean, it's a lot. And so, like, when I say, like, we make 125 different beers, but a lot of those batches are small. We have a pilot facility on that Spring Grove warehouse, so we can make kind of 8-barrel batches and try stuff out. But those are definitely the workhorse brands. Cincy Light is becoming a really strong brand for us. That was a little bit of a surprise. Not that we didn't think it was good, but it kind of came together pretty quickly, and it's been very popular. And then Bubbles is another one. And then really the other thing it's not a single brand, but it's been really strong for us is our hop box. It's a like mixed 12-pack that has rotating beers in it. Generally it has it always has 3 beers that have been out before, and then 1 brand new exclusive beer. The neat thing is it's not always the same sort of 3 core beers. It might be, pick 3 from, Truth, Juicy Truth, Knowledge, Beer for Humans, Vision, Pale Ale, and then we're actually, for the one that's coming out next, it's really exciting. It's the first time that a beer that originally was the exclusive in a hot box is going to be not the exclusive in a hot box, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So last year, Pretty Bird was a pale ale that was a hot box exclusive. We all really loved it. We did a couple batches of it this year. It's a wider release, but we're throwing it in the hot box as a pale, as just part of the hot box. Nice. And then there's another exclusive release, an IPA called Surf Hut coming out that's brand new, that hasn't been released before. So
I saw the hot box in Kroger today when I stopped in there, and I wanted to say it was Caveman is the not standard beer, but I can't remember.
It could be. It would have been. It's probably Side Quest.
Maybe that's what it was.
Did it look? If it looked kind of like a video game, that was Side Quest. The branding usually matches kind of the exclusive beer. So like the one the one with Surf Hut isn't even out yet. It's coming out like next week. But that one is like, it's kind of branded like vintage surf vibes. Okay. The last one was called Side Quest. It was a hazy pale. That one, sort of like a video game Side Quest kind of pixelated branding.
Always a theme, right?
Yeah, you gotta have something. I mean, and it's such an advantage we have all our marketing and design is in-house. So it's really great to have our team they get to have fun with doing those hot box packages. So I think this one coming out will be number, I want to say 8 or 9 of the hot boxes. It's kind of fun. Like, it's every couple months it'll number 8 is coming out. So it's, usually like 3 or 4 per year ish, kind of rotating through. So those are fun.
Okay, cool. You mentioned earlier about growth and kind of maintaining growth and not getting, too big. How many states are you in currently, and are you trying to grow? you try to grow, right? But you're trying to maintain it. But do you want to get into other states too at the same time?
Yeah. No, great question. So I believe we're in 9 states right now. We're not adding any new states this year. Will we in the future? Probably. But I don't think we certainly don't have any plans to be like a national brand. We have so much runway in the Midwest, even still. And, I would love for us to be in North Carolina. That's where I'm from, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're dancing closer, I was excited. We've been in Tennessee for a while. Like Tennessee is as far south as we are. We're Ohio. Let me see: Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, West Virginia.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I think I've heard you guys doing stuff in like Chicago, right?
Yeah,
more distribution and things like that.
It's not a huge, it's not a huge market. I mean, Chicago's tough. I mean, it's a huge beer market. Everybody and their seltzer is in there, but it's a place that we wanted to be. I'm not to say, I mean, we do okay, but there's certainly, that's one of the places that came to mind when I said there's plenty of runway for us to grow, even in the markets we're in. Wisconsin's another great example. We're pretty much, we have a small presence pretty much in like Milwaukee and Madison. That's about it, but like Kentucky, we have pretty good presence. Tennessee, we have a growing presence. It's been a good market for us, but it's tough. It's the farther you get from the brewery, the harder it is.
Mm-hmm.
We do a heck of a lot better in Pittsburgh than we do in Philly. People in Pittsburgh know Ohio and generally hate it.
Yeah.
But it's fine. But it's just a lot closer. I mean, it's a 5-hour drive from here. It's about the same drive. It's a little pretty similar drive from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh as it is down to Nashville. You start getting farther than that, and it gets tough. We have reps in different markets. We'd love to have more, but it's also a tough balance, right? You have to sell enough beer in a market to pay the salary of the person that lives in that market, but hard to sell that much beer without having a person. And right, it's this kind of complicated math.
Hey, in the next Rhinegeist staff meeting, though, can you maybe bring up that we would love for them to get a brewery in Nashville?
Yeah,
I mean, I would be there.
or at least like a tap room down here, like a Rhinegeist tap room.
With a rooftop?
Yeah, we
Is
were
that
talking about Monday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, near my house.
Monday night. They've got a tap room. Yeah, I think that's a big part of what we're trying to figure out is, as I said, like at some point we're gonna run up against the capacity of this building, and we're not there, but we're trying to look forward. One of the things that's been really exciting over the last couple years is our founders have kind of stepped back a little bit from the day to day, and they're really focused on that high level strategy. What do we want to be? What is our, not just what's our goal for this year or next year, but where do we see the company in 10 years? And what is that? Do we build another brewery somewhere? A big brewery? Do we put a tap room somewhere? Do we, if we put a tap room, is it in Ohio? Is it somewhere else? Is it just one? Is it many? And it's neat because now there's so many breweries that we can look to and reach out to and connect with. And we've had some great conversations with people. People are, you guys, spend time talking to people from the beer world. Hopefully people are nice to you. That's
so far.
That's kind of the attitude, right? I don't know what we're going to end up doing. I know that we're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about, opening a tap room or opening a brewery. But even then, it's like, well, does it have a brewery in it? Is it a tap?
It's got to be fed from somewhere.
Right. And
Sure.
so how does that work? What does that look like? And I think that one of the things, so we're not no new territories this year. Focusing on I mean, that's to say we're planning to still grow, but just within the territories we have. But I think, probably by the end of this year, we'll have a better idea, and we might even be making announcements of some of these plans of what we want to do. And I hope people, it's one of those things like, I don't know what we're going to say, but no matter what we say, people are going to be upset.
Yeah.
Some people will be excited. Hopefully most people will be excited, but
the people in Nashville will be very excited. I can
Yeah, be excited.
I can tell you that.
I enjoy Nashville. I haven't had a Robert's bologna sandwich in a minute. I'm gonna have to get myself back to that. That's my level of Broadway immersion. Is I stick to Roberts and call it good.
Yeah,
But,
it's good. Stay away from her.
And see, before we started the podcast, you and I were talking about the chili, because every time I come to Cincinnati, I have my gotta get Skyline. I try to get La Rosa's, La Rosa's Pizza. I'm more of even though I do get UDF ice cream, or UDF actually. I like UDF a little more than Graders, but I still, I'll still go either one if I can, and still every once in a while, maybe Frisch's or something like that too. But yeah, it's yeah.
Hey, Chris, I'd love to know. We talk about like sense of community and things around here, and we've talked to a lot of brewers in the Nashville area. What is the camaraderie within the Cincinnati brewery scene? Like you guys talking to each other? Is there a lot of that? You guys all get along? Again, there's so many up there compared to here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's funny. I feel like when I started as a brewer, I kind of knew at least somebody at most of the other breweries because there was only a handful. Now, personally, I don't. I know people at a lot of places, but we're all so much bigger, and we have almost 300 employees, and so we've got people all over, and everybody knows somebody somewhere. Just last weekend, I was at a couple breweries, and both of them, I didn't tell anybody I was coming. I just popped in, but I ran into some friends that work there at both places, and it's always such a pleasant experience. I always tell people that our first phone call when we need something is to a brewery. It's some of the other breweries in town, and hopefully we're that for other folks. The brewery nearest to me, to my house, is a place called Nine Giant.
Yeah.
And that's a great little brew pub. And Mike over there, he'll reach out. He didn't even reach out to me. He'll reach out to one of our brewers and be like, hey, do you have any extra this kind of yeast, this strain or whatever? And he'll be like, can I come through and pick some up? Like, absolutely. Like, it's waste. There's only so much we can use. So we're always happy to do that. I always tell the story of Taft. Taft and us have the same keg machine for kegging. At one point, it's Belgian, I think. So parts are super easy to get. And we had a part
Amazon knows all day long.
Yeah, there was a part that we didn't have a backup of. We have a lot. Now we do. We keep a backup of a lot of things, but it was just a random part. We didn't have the piece to it. We just called up Taft's, and they would use their keg washer and keg filler during the day, take the piece off, give it to us so we could run overnight and wash and clean and fill kegs. And then we'd take it off and give it to them in the morning so that they could. We did that for like a week and a half. Like we would have had no production if they hadn't done that.
Right. And was it just a phone call you made over there and like you're happy to do it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we have a lab that's a little bit more advanced than some of the other breweries in town because we're big. Mm-hmm. So we're always happy to, if somebody wants to run something through our PCR machine or check alcohol on our alkalizer, we're always happy to do that kind of stuff. And in the same way, Sam Adams does some of that stuff for us. We're the big guy sort of, Sam Adams is funny because they've got a little tiny tap room with a little 3-barrel brew house in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got the big boy.
Yeah.
That's not open to the public.
Right.
But they're making a lot of beverages over there. So, beer, cider, Truly, everything. So, they've got even more lab equipment than we do.
I was going to ask you because I saw looking through the website, a bunch of pictures, and there was pictures of the lab or some stuff in the lab. And how does that get utilized? Is it kind of more on the front end, more on the back side, post brewing, or just anywhere between?
Yeah, it's really everywhere. We do some analysis on raw materials, not as much in the lab with that high end equipment, but everything from raw materials through finished beer and beyond is processed through that lab. I think Jim was telling me, I think we have something like 45 checkpoints on a batch of beer, something like that. And that, like I said, that includes, if you ever get a batch of beer from Rhinegeist that you're not sure about, you think something might be off, send us an email. We have quality@rhinegeist.com.
Okay.
That goes directly to our quality team. If it's a can, look on the bottom, let us know the batch number, and we'll pull it right out of our library. And we'll try to make it right if something was wrong with it. But we also just want to know, even if you're just like, hey, it's cool, it just seemed a little off or whatever, like, let us know. We always want to know that stuff. It's how we get better. It's how we get better at our systems. So, we're kind of constantly evaluating and refining our beers.
Because you need that, not only quality, but you need that consistency too, right? It's got to be the same no matter where you get that beer. It's got to be the same, whether it's the tap room or the can at Kroger. It needs to be the same every time.
Yeah,
sure
that's, for us, consistency is a huge part of quality. I think that brewing, one of the skills of brewing is, it's a lot easier to make a really good beer once than it is to make a really good beer over and over again. Both are hard. It's hard to make a really good beer once. Mm-hmm. But if you can make it again and again and again, that's true quality.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you and I, like if Steve and I went to the brewery and you gave us both the same exact recipes, the same equipment, I guarantee it would come out differently, wouldn't it? If we had the same exact. Yeah. So you guys, and I want to make sure we talked about this. You guys donate to approximately 300 organizations a year in various ways. What are some of those ways, and what are some of those organizations? You can't talk about all 300 of them, but what are some of those? Because I know some of it's monetary, some of it's time, volunteer, all sorts of things. So it's when I saw 300, I thought that's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool program that we've built over the years. I think he says is not the person that really manages it at all. It all falls under our Beer for Humans brand. That's a name of a beer that we make as of last year that to kind of celebrate this program and connect people with some of these groups. So if you get a can of Beer for Humans, it's got a QR code on there and it takes you right to Beer for Humans webpage. If you buy a 15-pack, it's got images of some of the charities that we work with and their info. And the hope is you're drinking Beer for Humans and you say, man, maybe you're a cat lover and you say, oh, that's a cool organization. I didn't know about them. Maybe you connect and volunteer there. So Beer for Humans is a great kind of publicity tool for us. And that's one of the things that we can do for these charities that doesn't really cost us anything, but sharing their stories, sharing what they're doing to our followers, to our fans. A lot of these organizations are small. Most, not all, but many of those organizations are based in Cincinnati. So we probably have more Instagram followers than they do. So if we can promote some of the things that they're doing, we feel like that's helping out. But as you said, we do monetary donations, and that's, but we're fortunate to be able to do that. But we also
That's
can
awesome.
offer our space. We offer our people. Sometimes we even do things like I said, we screen print our own T-shirts. We've made T-shirts for people before because we can do it and donate it, and it's cheaper than them ordering T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
We have a volunteer policy where each department kind of gets to choose something in the community to do, choose a cause. And then Beth, who's our community manager, she helps take, if they say, we really, the nature, like hiking is what we love. She's going to try to align them with a group where they can do a trail cleanup or build benches on something that aligns with what that department wants to do. And so it helps engage our team as well. And, actually just this year, for the first time, we fully have built into our budget and our program that every employee, full-time, part-time, hourly, salaried, whatever, we're going to pay you for a volunteer experience. We hope you do more than that. Maybe you find somebody and you go every weekend or once a month, but that departmental trip, that's paid time. You don't have to take time off. You don't have to make it up. You don't have to do anything else. And that's something that Beth's been working really hard on because, it's just work efficiency balance, right? Like it works, but it takes a lot of coordinating. And then the other thing is if you're ever in our tap room on a Wednesday, every single Wednesday, we have a nonprofit. We invite them into our space. We give them a table and some room and say, you can do nothing. You can put your sign up, or you can bring your board and your people and pamphlets, and you can do a dance in the center of the tap room if you want. We just had a dance group recently, so that's on my mind. But, it's like a community dance group that teaches dance to kids that don't have the financial means to pay for dance lessons. And they had those kids in there dancing and performing, and it was awesome. So that's every Wednesday. It's called Beer for Humans Night. And every beer that somebody buys, you get a token, and you can put it in one of the nonprofits for that month. So we try to be broad. We try to understand that we can give money, but there's more that we can give too, and try to be a part of the community, not just sort of outside of it.
Right. There's and I saw this too, and there are ways to get involved actually outside of the Cincinnati area because you guys are tied into some things. And I, as a matter of fact, I sent an email yesterday to it, community@rhinegeist.com, where you can kind of find out if there's anything you guys are tied to that you could help support in your area. So we're going to check and see if there's something in this area we could.
Yeah, and we do. Every one of our markets that we're in has sort of some dollars allocated to them to put on events. And one of the things that we often do is we'll work with, like, it might be a bar or a restaurant in Nashville or wherever, and it'll be, okay, $1 from every Rhinegeist beer that night goes to the whatever charity that usually between us and the bar, we find something that is meaningful. And oftentimes the bar will match that donation. So sometimes, you're talking sometimes $2 from a pint going to a charity.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's a lot. So
yeah, really is.
Pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So, hey, so fun stuff. First of all, I don't know if you can see the logo on my shirt. So you see it's a Rhinegeist logo. So I couldn't, I thought I knew the story behind this, but I couldn't find it again recently as doing research for this podcast. Doesn't that have something to do with the owners meeting at an airport? If you need to look at it again, and then kind of it's got the airplane logo coming off the skull.
Yeah, I believe that was for one of our anniversary parties.
Okay.
That was a specific like travel themed shirt. But we we do, kind of travel is a fun part of our founders and what a lot of us like to do. We do, for our anniversary, for employee anniversaries, we give either some cash or some funds like an Airbnb or hotel gift card, and you can get a duffel bag or a carry-on bag on your 5th anniversary. Your 1st anniversary, you get a nice backpack.
Nice.
And then 10th anniversary, which for me is, I'm trying to not get fired in the next year so I can go. We offer a sabbatical, paid sabbatical for, and you don't have to travel, but most people, at least for part of that 4 weeks, will go and travel somewhere. And it's just it's like working in a brewery can be stressful and exhausting, and if you've been here for 10 years, you get a break, and a time to reset. So I know most of the folks that have hit that already. We're kind of in that. We'll be 11 this June, so we have a few people that are hitting that.
Mm-hmm.
Jim,
Awesome.
our founding brewer, he started in March before we opened in end of June, so he's actually already hit his 11th year. But
he's been
pretty
there
much
longer than the
everybody's
brewery's been
taking a trip. So
you got yours picked out? If
I'm
you make
already
it that
scheming.
far.
Already scheming. That's what I'm saying. I better not get fired.
Hey, so when I was doing research too, again, like the kind of the history of the OTR that you referred to earlier, I didn't know this until, and Steve knew this, and maybe you do too. There are some loggering tunnels underneath OTR underneath Newport and Covington as well. Have you been in any of those? I guess they were rediscovered kind of recently.
Yeah, I've been in some of the ones in Cincinnati. As far as we know, there aren't any underneath Rhinegeist, but doesn't mean there aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
These things weren't written down to
Exactly. Hey, before we get out of here, first we want to thank you, but we also want to make sure that people know how to find you. So where can they find you on your website, the brewery, all the information out there that people need to know?
Yeah, pretty much everything is at Rhinegeist, Rhinegeist, because of course we had to have a very easy to spell brewery name. But yeah, you can go to our website, rhinegeist.com. You can go to our Beer for Humans page and check out what we're doing there. I reached out to our territory manager. I think one thing that's maybe exciting is not only is Bubbles back to its original form, it's got a line extension that is going to be hitting Nashville, I believe this week, maybe next week. It's a Blood Orange Bubbles.
Look out for it.
What's it called?
Blood Orange Bubbles. So it's still Bubbles,
Okay.
but it's like Bubbles is peach and cranberry. This is grapefruit and blood orange. So it's just kind of like a citrus version of Bubbles. So something to keep an eye out for. We're kind of in the middle of a wholesaler transition in Nashville, for anyone who's familiar with that. Our original wholesaler was Bounty Beverage, and they have closed. So we don't have a ton of events like right now, because we're in the middle of that transition with our new wholesaler, which is Ajax Turner.
Okay.
So they're great. We've worked with them over the last couple months, getting that transition going, and so hopefully you'll see some more. If it's been a little bit quiet, that's why. It's always a tough transition. It's we wish the best to the team at Bounty. We've been with them since we launched Nashville. So a lot of fun years with that crew, and looking forward to. I've only briefly met some of the Ajax Turner folks, so I'm looking forward to getting back down there, and I'll definitely have to let you guys know next time I'm in town.
Yeah, for sure. And when he's going pretty soon, and we're going up together Memorial Day weekend. We'll make sure we touch base with you.
I should be in town, so come on up.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do.
That's
We'll do.
one of our many stops, but it's always a must.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Chris Shields, he is the Director of Education for Rhinegeist Brewery in Cincinnati. You got to go there. The beer is great. And we hope to bring you back on the podcast sometime in the future, and we can chat some more. You've been gracious with your time, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we went through
Great
about half
talking
the
to you guys,
questions on here.
And like I said, I'll look forward to sharing a beer in person real soon.
It's good.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the Brewery Underground Podcast. For Scott Touron, I'm Steve Sullivan.
Cheers.